You'll understand, won't you? Claire, birthdays can be rescheduled, but Samantha's Paris trip once in a lifetime. The cake sat on the kitchen counter, its chocolate ganache shell glistening under warm pendant lights. My name was written in elegant cursive silver sprinkles lined the edges, and 3 candles waited unlit. I had ordered it myself. Nobody noticed when it was delivered. Nobody asked why there was a cake at all. Dinner was salmon overcooked. The wine was cheap, but Samantha liked it. She said so on one of her vlogs, how boxed Chardonnay gave unfiltered European girl vibes. My mother bought a case the next day. Now it had become our staple drink, offered proudly as if that made us cultured. I sat across from Samantha. Her nails were rhinestone, tapping on her phone as she scrolled through a group chat titled Paris Babes. She hadn't looked up once. Elaine folded her napkin and sighed, that rehearsed, elegant sigh I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. Well, she said, we had to move some things around, but we've finalized the Paris budget. Oh my God. Yes, Samantha squealed, finally breaking her digital trance. I am going to be that girl on the Seine. Eiffel Tower selfies, macaron reviews, vintage thrifting content. Like actual dreams. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Greg added, barely glancing up from his steak. You've worked so hard this semester. I blinked. Worked. She hadn't completed a single college course in over a year, but she had convinced my parents she was building a personal brand, which apparently meant filming her morning routines and posting skincare hauls while asking strangers to Venmo her for coffee. Elaine turned to me, her voice sugar-laced. You'll understand, won't you? Claire, birthdays can be rescheduled, but Samantha's Paris trip once in a lifetime. My fork froze midair. I hadn't asked for much. A quiet dinner, a cake, a glass of something decent. I hadn't even invited anyone because I knew what the evening would be. It was always this. I just hadn't expected them to say it out loud that they used my savings for her trip. The bakery gave me a discount, I murmured, pointing toward the untouched cake. Since I ordered it myself. Greg chuckled. Well, it's not like you had any friends to invite anyway, right? Besides, that cake looks too sweet. You never liked sweets. I swallowed. That was Samantha. Right. He waved a hand. You two used to be so similar. We weren't. Beneath the table, my phone buzzed twice. I glanced down. First text, Ethan, Singapore board meeting moved up. Jet ready. Need your confirmation. Second text, Ethan. Also, I saw the gift you left on the table. She didn't even unwrap it, no. Of course she didn't. I had wrapped it myself, a simple photo book of our childhood Polaroids. I found it shoved under the counter by the recycling bin earlier. I should take this, I said, rising with the glass still half full in my hand. Work call. Elaine gave a distant nod, already focused back on Samantha, who was listing Instagrammable cafes near the Louvre. Greg asked, remind me again, what is it you do now? Something with computers, right? I smiled. Something like that. I climbed the stairs, slowly passing the gallery wall filled with Samantha's graduation photos, pageant ribbons, and a faded ballet costume encased in a glass frame. My contributions were less decorative, a science fair trophy in the corner of the hallway, dusty and crooked. I entered my old bedroom, now converted into a guest room code for unused. My laptop sat in my carry-on, already synced. I pulled it out, connected my headset, and glanced once more at the silver bracelet on the nightstand. A birthday gift when I was 15, given with a rare hug from Elaine. She had pawned it 2 years later during a financial hiccup and forgotten. I bought it back last fall from an estate sale in New Haven. She never noticed it had gone missing. Claire Morgan, I said, voice crisp, camera on. Confirming for Singapore. The board meeting interface loaded instantly. 9 international board members waited. Charts already populated the screen. My face appeared in the top corner, centered and confident. One more buzz on my phone. Final text, Ethan, Palmer Tech Board is waiting for your call. Also, happy birthday, boss. I excused myself with a smile. Work call, I said. They didn't even ask what I did for a living. Every single view means a meal for someone in need. Just by watching this video, you're giving warmth, hope, and a full plate to those less fortunate. So watch now, share now, subscribe to the channel, and let's spread love together. I stopped expecting cake when I was 12. That was the year they sold my bracelet to pay for Samantha's ballet recital dress. The lights in my apartment were dim, not out of mood, but habit. I liked the hush of it after a day of noise of people talking at me and not to me. After dinner at my parents' house, I needed the silence more than ever. My heels clicked against the hardwood as I walked past the entryway table where I had left my phone face down. Notifications glowed beneath the screen like a pulse I didn't want to acknowledge yet. I placed the cake still untouched on the marble counter. Even the frosting looked tired now. From the corner of my eye, something peeking out behind a dusty holiday wreath caught my attention. I pulled it forward. A worn family album. I hadn't seen it in years. I brought it to the kitchen island, flipping through pages stiff with time. Every photo was a shrine to Samantha. Samantha in tutus. Samantha in tiaras. Samantha in matching outfits with our mother. Samantha holding awards I vaguely remembered being encouraged not to compete for. Not a single image of me until page 23, and even then I was in the background, blinking, mid-chew. At 12, I had wanted a simple birthday, a locket maybe, but I had asked for the silver bracelet instead. The one Elaine said reminded her of her college days. She even smiled when she wrapped it. But 3 weeks later, I caught her explaining to the dry cleaner that she'd had to sell a few little things to cover Samantha's custom recital gown. The bracelet was gone. Samantha spun across a stage in a dress sewn with sequins. I clapped, of course. At 18, I opened a letter from my top college alongside a note from Greg, explaining how they'd needed to divert my college fund temporarily. Samantha needed a camera ring light laptop. She's building something real, Elaine had said. It's the future, Claire. You'll get scholarships anyway. I got partial funding and 3 jobs. At 21, I turned legal and invisible. No dinner, no text. Only an email from Ethan, then just my lab partner turned friend. It read, "Happy birthday. I don't know how you do it, but you're doing it. And someday you'll do it on your terms. Keep going." He didn't know it at the time, but that email was the only candle I had that year. Now, 4 years later, my apartment reflected none of that chaos. Everything was white, clean, curated, not to be beautiful, but to be mine. The only photo on my shelf was a framed blueprint of an early Palmer circuit I had designed in undergrad before they rejected my internship application for lack of culture fit. I opened my laptop, scanning over documents from legal. Palmer Tech drowning in PR disasters, internal leaks, shareholder revolts had come crawling to us 6 months ago. Of course, they didn't know the full circle they were drawing. I approved the due diligence without revealing who I was. They still didn't know. Clicking through the files, I paused on one document that made me sit back and smile. Their latest investor deck. Bullet point 3. Seeking guidance from visionary leadership, preferably female-led innovation firms. I could almost hear the irony laughing with me. I scrolled to the acquisition confirmation. Just a button. One click, and it was real. I hesitated only a second. I remembered standing outside Palmer's building that summer, 17, sweating in a blazer too big for me, being told that my resume was impressive for a girl your age, but that I might find a better fit at a startup. I was the startup. I checked my phone. Ethan had sent another message. All press drafts ready. You want the headline to go out before wheels up or after landing. The bracelet sat in the center drawer of my desk. I opened it, letting the tarnished silver rest in my palm. I didn't wear it. I didn't need to. But I kept it close. Not out of sentimentality, out of evidence. Proof of every small, forgettable theft that built the wall between them and me. I placed it back into the drawer and shut it softly. Funny how the world comes back around. I tapped confirm jet departure. They didn't just forget my birthday. They forgot I existed outside of being useful. The Morgan garage used to smell like old rubber and metal polish. Now it smelled like eucalyptus and lavender, the kind of curated serenity sold by suburban yoga teachers who called themselves movement coaches. The yoga mats were lined perfectly on the newly refinished floors. A Himalayan salt lamp hummed softly in the corner. Everything about it was still and delicate, like a place where no one ever broke anything. I stood near the back wall where the utility sink used to be. The same place I fried my first motherboard trying to build a liquid cooling system from a soda can and a desktop fan. I was 13. It hadn't worked, but it was mine. A full-length mirror now leaned against that wall, framed with faux barnwood and pastel decals that read, "Breathe and radiate energy." I stared at myself through it, but I didn't see the woman in a silk blouse and leather boots. I saw a kid in paint-stained jeans, goggles too tight against her temples, a screwdriver in one hand and a printed circuit diagram in the other. Greg's voice echoed in my memory, lazy and dismissive. "Claire's good with tech stuff. She fixed the Wi-Fi last time." That's how they reduced it, like knowing how to optimize a network and build back-end architecture was the same as unplugging a modem. When he said it in front of guests, everyone chuckled. I smiled. That was the job. Smile. Be useful. The garage used to be my kingdom. I spent weekends scavenging parts, soldering boards, coding in BASIC on an old laptop Greg nearly threw out. When I was 15, I entered a state science fair with a biometric login project, a crude but functional fingerprint scanner I'd built from scratch. Elaine asked if I could skip the fair to attend Samantha's pre-prom hair trial. She's never had a professional blowout, she said, as if that were the more revolutionary feat. They didn't show up. Not that time. Not any time. I sat on one of the yoga blocks. My phone buzzed. Ethan calling. "Hey," I answered. "You okay?" His voice was casual but precise like always. I exhaled. I'm standing in my family's garage/yoga den, breathing in essential oils and childhood trauma. He laughed just once, the kind of sound that released pressure without making a scene. "Want me to walk you through the docs?" "Yeah." While he recapped the final acquisition details, I stared at an old photo on a corkboard tucked behind rolled mats. It had somehow survived the remodel. Me at 12, grinning with chipped teeth and grease-stained hands standing next to a wooden workbench I'd built myself. The caption written in Sharpie said Claire and her robot thing. "They kept that," I whispered. What Ethan asked. Nothing. "Go on." He finished the summary. The buyout offer was accepted. Regulatory clearance was done. In less than 24 hours, I would officially own Palmer Tech, the company that rejected me, because I wasn't aligned with their cultural values. I had the rejection letter saved on a thumb drive shaped like a cartoon cactus. I didn't know why I'd kept it, but now I was glad I had. Claire, Ethan said, voice level. "In 24 hours, you'll own the company that called you too risky to hire." I didn't speak for a second. My hands were resting on my knees. I looked down at them, clean manicured, too soft now. These hands used to blister from soldering irons. They used to tremble from excitement whenever I finally got code to compile without an error. Now they signed NDAs and M&As, clicked confirm buttons that shifted entire markets. But they were still mine. I stood, walked to the mirror again. My reflection didn't blink. Let them keep thinking I'm just the tech girl. You don't have to shout when the word hits hard enough. Boss was enough. The sun hadn't quite dipped below the horizon. A soft orange glow wrapped around the edges of the Morgan house like one of Elaine's decorative scarves, pleasant, curated, performative. Inside, I could hear the dull scrape of forks against plates, the occasional clink of cheap wine glasses. Laughter, low and self-satisfied, spilled out through the slightly ajar kitchen window. I stood at the edge of the driveway dressed in a simple navy coat and gray boots. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed anything more than middle-class stability. The only thing that stood out was the vehicle waiting behind me, a sleek black car with privacy-tinted windows and the kind of tire sheen that suggested money and silence. Jet engines purred distantly overhead, fading into the background like a storm too high up to reach you. The evening breeze brushed the hem of my coat against my legs. Ethan exited the front passenger seat dressed in a charcoal suit that looked like it had never known a wrinkle. He didn't walk, he glided. Clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, earbud tucked in like he was on 10 calls at once. He knew exactly how to make an entrance look natural. He offered a slight bow, just enough to make a statement without parody. "Ms. Morgan," he said, his voice calm and unhurried. "The jet is fueled and waiting. The board is already on the call. Shall I tell them you're en route?" The silence behind the kitchen window cracked. I heard a fork clatter onto ceramic. Samantha's voice, muffled but unmistakable, blurted, "Jet." "What jet?" I turned toward the door just as Elaine opened it. Her expression was half hostess, half confused mother. "Claire?" she asked, blinking like the light outside had stunned her. "Is everything all right?" I smiled, the polite kind, the one they always taught us to wear during family photos. "Just a little business trip," I said. Behind her, Greg appeared, napkin in hand. He looked at Ethan like he was an unexpected plumber. "A jet?" he asked, slow and skeptical, like he thought it might be a metaphor. Ethan glanced at me, waiting for the cue. I gave a tiny nod. He stepped forward, speaking to them with the same tone he used when briefing executives. "Ms. Morgan is required in Singapore within the next 14 hours. Palmer Tech Board convenes at 800 local time. Her presence is non-negotiable." Elaine blinked. "Palmer Tech? That sounds familiar." Should I said softly. "You framed their rejection letter. Said it built character." Samantha emerged behind them, barefoot and holding a wine glass with chipped polish on her thumb. "Wait. You have a jet?" "Technically, the company owns it," Ethan interjected, ever the professional. "She just signs off on where it goes." Greg's lips moved, but no sound came out. His fork hit the floor. I didn't say more. I didn't need to. No explanation. No gloating. No raised voice. Just truth, naked and unadorned, standing politely in their driveway. I stepped into the car. Ethan shut the door behind me with a gentle thud. Inside, the leather smelled like new beginnings. My phone buzzed in my hand as the car pulled away. One message. "Samantha, wait. You have a jet?" I powered my phone off. The company that rejected me 3 years ago now sits in my inbox like a desperate ex. I sipped espresso from a matte black cup, the kind that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The cabin lights had been dimmed to a cool blue. My jet didn't hum, it glided. The air was still except for the faint tap of Ethan's fingers against the tablet beside me. We were 30,000 feet above the Pacific, somewhere over time zones that didn't matter. Singapore waited, but not like it used to. Not like it had when I was a kid dreaming of global headquarters and product launches. Now Singapore was the stage. I already owned the spotlight. Ethan slid a document toward me. "Final adjustments from legal," he said. "Ellison's team accepted most terms, but they're still pushing back on the executive purge." I didn't look up. "Non-negotiable." He nodded, unsurprised. A screen at the end of the cabin blinked to life. Richard Ellison's face appeared grainy at first, then sharp under the conference lighting on his end. Same tired eyes, same two white teeth. Once the executive VP of Palmer Tech, now just another man trying not to drown in the consequences of his own decisions. "Claire," he said, voice too warm. "Or should I say Ms. Morgan now?" I tilted my head. "Claire is fine, for now." He tried to smile. It came out like a wince. "First off, I want to congratulate you. Palmer's future is in very capable hands." I allowed silence to sit between us. He cleared his throat. "That said, I reviewed the revised acquisition documents. Your request to replace the entire executive board seems necessary," I interrupted. if Palmer wants to survive the next fiscal quarter. A flicker crossed his face. Annoyance, pride, shame. Pick one. You understand these people have 10-year families? I understand they let your stock tank 26% in 4 months. I replied. They also greenlit the AI ethics fiasco, the offshore tax scandal, and the now infamous quote that women in tech were a branding liability. Richard shifted in his seat. I looked down at the rejection letter still open in my inbox, a digital fossil. While your qualifications are impressive, Claire, we feel your personality may not align with Palmer's collaborative culture. Best of luck. Collaborative culture in Palmer speak meant middle-aged men in Patagonia vests talking over women in meetings. I remember standing in your lobby, I said softly. 3 years ago. You didn't shake my hand. His face paled slightly. Ethan spoke before he could recover. Final contract awaits your signature, Mr. Ellison, if you're ready. I leaned back and let the silence stretch. You called women in tech a liability, I said evenly. Congratulations, I am now your majority shareholder. He didn't respond, just nodded once. A slow, defeated movement, the kind that ripples. His signature hit the screen a second later. Ethan checked his tablet. Transaction confirmed. I glanced outside. The stars looked sharper at this altitude. He turned to me. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. Shall I hit send? I didn't need to think. Do it. You don't take down an empire with anger, you do it with archives. The Blackwood Tech headquarters rose like obsidian glass against the haze of Singapore's skyline, sharp-edged, quiet, and watching. From the outside, it looked sterile. From the inside, it pulsed with silent movement, data syncing algorithms, evolving security doors sealing with biometric locks. My office sat on the top floor, isolated by design. A single pane of curved glass gave me a panoramic view of Marina Bay, but I didn't glance at it. My eyes were on the wall of monitors that displayed code transaction logs and time-stamped files, my arsenal. Ethan stood beside me, tablet in hand. Forensics team is standing by. You sure you want to go back that far? Yes, I said. Start with family-linked accounts, personal transfers, anything predating 2017. He nodded and tapped into the secure channel. I settled behind my desk, a matte black slab of carbon fiber with no drawers and no nostalgia. It didn't creak. It didn't hold secrets. I preferred it that way. I had enough of both in my past. A memory uncoiled, Elaine's voice, soft and poisonous. Are you spying on your own family, Claire? You think taking screenshots of everything makes you clever. I hadn't answered. I didn't know how to explain back then that I wasn't spying. I was documenting, capturing digital footprints they left like fingerprints on a crime scene. No one noticed when it was Claire. Claire just liked computer stuff. I opened a hidden folder I hadn't touched in years. Old group chats, bank notifications, a dusty calendar filled with color-coded plans. Lectures I never attended because of family emergencies deadlines moved to make space for Samantha's big moments. Ethan turned his screen to me. Look at this. A financial report with red flags all over it. March 3, 2018, a full month before Samantha's first brand launch party. A wire transfer, 6 figures, moved from an education savings account ending in 9213 mine into an LLC titled Eastbourne Equity, registered under an address in Vermont. I remembered that name. Uncle Tyler's shell company. Samantha used it to fabricate legitimacy during her first influencer campaign. No one questioned it. I leaned in, lips parting slightly. Show me the full ledger, I said. He did. Over 30 smaller transactions followed, each routed through layers of names, vague consultancy fees, ghost payroll, a pattern of laundering cloaked in family trust. My chest didn't rise, my pulse didn't spike, but something under my skin shifted. Like old bruises remembering their shape. They took everything I murmured not to Ethan. even the interest. From another monitor, a paused video of Samantha blinked back at me, her face pixel-perfect, advertising a vegan skincare line with the poise of a lifestyle guru. Powered by passion, her caption read. I knew what powered it. I saw the ledger now. Ethan broke the silence gently. Want me to prep the audit files? I stared at the frozen frame of my sister, then back to the transfer log's digital blood on a clean screen. Not yet, I said. Let them feel safe a little longer. To a predator, the first wound doesn't feel like danger. It feels like bad luck. I adjusted the lapel of my blazer as I stepped into the floodlights. The press conference had been engineered down to the second, the soft violet hues, the precision pacing of the Blackwood anthem in the background. The LED screen set to fade in just as my foot reached the center of the stage. Clean. Sophisticated. Not a single detail left to chance. Except one. The one I'd built precisely to look like chance. Ethan stood at the edge of the room, posture. Crisp nod, barely perceptible. The audience was a mix of tech bloggers, business journalists, and corporate analysts, none of them ready for what I was about to say, and none of them suspecting they were part of a demonstration. I began with data. Over the past year, I said we've witnessed a rise in digital noise, curated realities, vanity metrics, misinformation disguised as lifestyle. I tapped the screen behind me, and a sleek animation launched into motion. Blackwood's new feature, I continued, filters digital content through contextual credibility layers. Not just fact-checking, but intention-checking. A few pens stopped scribbling. From the back row, a hand rose. A journalist from TechNow, glasses halfway down his nose. Will this help people struggling with false narratives online? I smiled. That's the idea. Sometimes the loudest voice is the least true. We want to change that. The next slide clicked in. I let it linger. Photos filled the screen in a cascading reel, brief, subtle, fast. An over-filtered product image. A caption promising luxury made in limited French batches when the product was sourced from domestic wholesalers. Another, a photo tagged Intra Sustainable Queen with the reflection of a leather handbag in the background. They passed in seconds, blended in with other examples. But I knew who would notice. The camera flashed. The room paused. I answered a few more questions, then wrapped the conference with my usual signature, a nod to the tech world's responsibility to build with integrity, not just algorithms. As I stepped off stage, Ethan already had a tablet waiting. Samantha's live stream is up. I didn't look at it yet. I wanted to savor the moment. He handed me earbuds. 30 seconds ago. I put one in. Is this some kind of joke? Samantha's voice was tight, shaky. Why would Blackwood use my photos? That was my brand launch. Like, do they think I won't notice? That was my caption. My photo. There it was. Not rage. Not yet. Disorientation. The first cut always shocks. I watched as she kept talking to her followers, confusion starting to sour into fear. Her eyes darted between the comments flooding in. Isn't that your serum pic? Why would they use your image like that? LOL. Wait, are you part of a case study? I took the earbud out. Ethan didn't say anything for a moment. Then he held out my other phone. Your mother just called our PR line. He hesitated. She's threatening legal action. The best traps don't snap shut, they shrink slowly until breathing feels like guilt. Manhattan was grim under an overcast sky, the kind that turned reflections in glass buildings into ghosts. I sat in the legal affairs office on the 33rd floor of Blackwood HQ, across from Mr. Jennings, a man so polished his cufflinks probably had non-disclosure clauses. Beside me, Ethan quietly updated the shared document on his tablet, syncing notes from the internal compliance team. We were 3 weeks ahead of schedule. 3 shell entities linked to Eastbourne Equity, Jennings said, scrolling. 2 registered in Wyoming, 1 offshore, all inactive, all previously used by 1, Samantha Morgan. I nodded. Continue. She accepted brand sponsorship payments directly into those LLCs under the premise they were registered vendors, Jennings added. The records are messy, misclassified. Intentional or not, the IRS will raise an eyebrow. Good, I said. He adjusted his tie. We're preparing letters of intent to audit carefully worded. But the interesting part is this. He turned his screen toward me. We traced a single transaction dated July 2019. A deposit from an educational trust fund labeled CM Future Fund into an Eastbourne sub-account. CM. Claire Morgan. I'd always known. But knowing and proving were different beasts. Send the inquiry, I said. And double-check the return address. Ethan smiled faintly. Morgan residence exactly. Make it look like a clerical error. Across the city, my childhood home stood quiet on a cul-de-sac lined with manicured hedges and secrets no one thought would resurface. But today, a thin white envelope would be waiting in their mailbox, bearing the seal of Blackwood Legal addressed not to Samantha but to Greg and Elaine Morgan. Let them open it. Let the words bloom slowly like mold. Meanwhile, across digital borders, Samantha's influencer accounts began to hiccup. Payment processors flagged her for KYC compliance checks. A platform suspended brand payouts due to pending legal review. Her affiliate links redirected to 404 pages. The walls weren't crashing in. They were inching inward cell by digital cell. Ethan looked up from his screen. Greg just left a voicemail on our automated line. IRS flagged a discrepancy in your co-signed student loan. They co-signed it, I said. Then drained the account to pay for Samantha's camera gear. He gave a low exhale. This will escalate. It's meant to. By 3 p.m., I received another notification, this one personal. A voice message, 47 seconds long. Elaine's voice snapped through the speaker, brittle and enraged. Claire, what are you doing? These notices, the bank freezes, they're showing up here. This isn't how family works. You're destroying us. Is this what you want? Revenge. The message ended with static, the kind that comes from slamming a phone before it beeps. I hit replay. I listened again, slower. Ethan didn't ask. He just waited. I looked out the window down to the sharp shadows cutting across Fifth Avenue. Now they remember I exist. Every empire fights back. Even the rotten ones. It started the way all digital wars do, with a carefully curated tear. Samantha went live on TikTok at 8:17 a.m. New York time, wearing an oversized hoodie, no makeup, hair tousled just so. The caption read, "Breaking my silence, betrayal family first, our sister story." I watched it from the war room, what Ethan and I jokingly called the media operations floor at Blackwood HQ. A massive screen mirrored trending hashtag sentiment heat maps and social velocity trackers. This wasn't new to us. What was new was watching it come from blood. She's learned from the best, Ethan murmured, sipping black coffee. On screen, Samantha's face filled the frame, eyes glassy. I just feel like it's really easy for people to forget who helped them rise, she began. My sister and I were close. We grew up building things together. She was the quiet one. I always told her she could shine if she just let people in. Cut to a slideshow of old photos, one of us in grade school, another, where I'm blurred in the background while she beams at the camera. A third shows a birthday party I didn't attend. The caption read, "We all sacrifice for family." I didn't blink. That new Blackwood feature. It was based on conversations we had, late-night chats, ideas I shared. Samantha's voice trembled just right. I'm not saying she stole anything. I'm saying maybe she forgot the people who loved her first. The live stream climbed to 2.3 million views in 2 hours. And it didn't stop there. Greg and Elaine made their move next, not on social media, but through a podcast targeted at entrepreneurial families. The host was practically salivating as Elaine spun the tale of family support, early sacrifices, and how Claire's education was a team effort. She's brilliant, Elaine said, but brilliance needs nurturing. Her father and I, Well, we gave up a lot. Greg added Palmer Tech. That internship rejection lit a fire in her. But what people forget is, we were behind the scenes helping her grow. They knew how to sound proud, but just bitter enough to plant doubt. The PR team filtered the headlines across the screen. One in bold tech heiress's family claims betrayal. She forgot where she came from. Investor emails started pouring in. Most were mild requests for clarification links to the live stream questions about Claire's public silence. A few were more pointed. Will this affect Blackwood's upcoming launch? Is Samantha Morgan a formal co-founder? Is there legal exposure? They're moving faster than expected, Ethan said. I didn't answer. One of our junior analysts walked in pale. Twitter's trending. Hashtag our sister stealth. Let them trend. Let them scream. The damage was real, not to our numbers, but to perception. Samantha wasn't trying to win a legal war. She was playing the only game she knew: attention, influence, emotion. But influence is a currency, and like all currencies, it devalues with overuse. Ethan turned to me. They want a response. Want to tell your side? I stared at the screen, at Samantha's trembling chin, my mother's cool smirk, my father's carefully rehearsed sigh. No, I said. I want them to talk more. The more rope, the better. The thing about secrets is you can weaponize them once, but destroy with them twice. The Blackwood boardroom was engineered for silence. No creaky chairs, no ticking clocks. Just thick glass reflected city lights and the subtle hum of power flowing in invisible circuits. It was midnight in Manhattan, but I wasn't tired. My legal director, a woman named Helen Rhodes, sat across from me with a face carved from marble. Beside her, Ethan reviewed the final version of the press kit. The PR strategist refreshed analytics in real time while the data analyst prepped the timeline display. No one dared to break the stillness until I did. I tapped a key. The recording started playing. Elaine's voice filled the room, crackling but unmistakable. Claire, don't make this about you. Just be a good sister. Let Samantha take the internship. You're so obsessed with fairness, it's exhausting. Then a pause. My own voice, younger, cracked with disbelief. It was my offer, Mom? Elaine again, dismissive and sharp. Stop being selfish. You're always buried in your little tech projects anyway. This would be better for someone with charisma. I stopped the recording. Silence then. Helen said, "It's damning." I clicked again. A series of screenshots appeared on the screen: bank transfers made from accounts under my name to prepaid travel agencies. Each dated precisely 2 days before Samantha's various influencer retreats, Mykonos, Cabo, Paris. Each accompanied by a note in my name, approved for brand development. Except I never wrote those. Ethan stood and faced the team. This isn't about reputation management anymore. This is legal exposure, digital forgery, financial abuse. Helen added, and given the family ties, public sympathy may shift if we leak this strategically. Carefully. We'll keep Claire's name out of it. Let the facts speak first. The PR strategist nodded. We can use journalist proxies. Make it look like a whistleblower leak. Good, I said. Start with the voice clip, then the transfers. But not everything. They looked up. I opened the final file. On screen, scanned images of 5 financial authorizations, all with my forged signature. My name, my college account. My consent falsified by one Samantha Morgan. One document even included my social security number typed with a digit transposed. A mistake I would never have made. A mistake she did. Helen let out a slow breath. This is enough for criminal proceedings. I nodded. They've been painting me as cold, I said. Let's give the world something to warm up to. A brief, stunned silence followed. Then Ethan spoke. The strategy's clear. We don't name names. We don't issue statements. We leak the truth slowly, measured, controlled, until they drown in their own contradictions. I stared at the window. Manhattan looked back like a grid of secrets, every light a ledger, every shadow a memory. I could almost hear Elaine's voice again scolding me over a misplaced spoon or a grade that was too low despite being perfect. Always demanding more, always giving less. I turned back to the table. I want them invited, I said, my voice low. Here, all of them. It's time. If they won't come to the truth, I'll bring them into the room with it. The invitations went out on Blackwood Technologies' letterhead, embossed and unforgiving. Each one was signed by Claire Morgan, CEO. Formal. I wanted the weight of it to be felt as soon as the envelope was opened. They didn't RSVP. They never had to. I knew curiosity and pride would drive them through the door more efficiently than any confirmation. At exactly 10:01 a.m., the elevator dinged. Samantha stepped out first, wrapped in beige cashmere and self-important sunglasses oversized like armor. Greg followed behind his gait, slower than I remembered. Elaine trailed, clutching her purse like it contained answers or excuses. None of them noticed Ethan standing by the glass wall. "Welcome," I said calmly, gesturing toward the long boardroom table. Samantha blinked. "So this is where you work?" "This is what I own," I corrected, taking my seat at the head. The room was elegant and sterile, dressed in modern restraint. Soft lighting glinted off brushed steel fixtures, while floor-to-ceiling windows framed a Manhattan skyline none of them had earned. Elaine hesitated. "Claire, is this some sort of family meeting?" Ethan stepped forward smoothly, his tone crisp but measured. "Good morning. I'm Ethan Ashford, Chief Operating Officer of Blackwood Technologies and Claire's witness for today's proceedings." Witness Greg frowned. "Yes," I said simply. "To accuracy. And memory." Silence spread like a fog. I opened my laptop with a soft click. The 90-inch display behind me came to life. Slide 1A, scanned voice memo, the one where Elaine had instructed me to give up my internship for Samantha's benefit. Her voice, clear and authoritative, filled the space. Elaine's eyes narrowed. Slide 2, a spreadsheet detailing account withdrawals from my education savings, time-stamped and cross-referenced with Samantha's documented luxury trips. Samantha's mouth opened, then closed. Her jaw tightened. "You went through our accounts." "No," I said. "I went through mine." Greg shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Claire, this seems excessive. If you had concerns, you could have talked to us, like I did at 12. When you sold my bracelet for a tutu, I asked deadpan. Or at 18, when you were directed my tuition savings." Elaine started to speak, but Ethan gently raised a hand. "We're not here for arguments. We're here for clarity." Slide 3, photographs of forged documents. My signature copied, distorted, misused on authorization slips I never signed. 5 separate incidents. One involving a 6-figure transfer. Elaine's lipstick seemed to pale. Greg coughed. "These things must be mistakes. Surely we can sort this out." "I've already sorted it," I said. "This isn't a trial. It's a courtesy." Samantha leaned forward, her voice pitched low. "You're trying to ruin us." "You ruined yourselves?" I replied. "I'm just making sure you remember where the trail started." Elaine looked at the screen, then back at me. Her voice, for once, was almost fragile. "How much?" "Do you know I closed the laptop? Enough to burn your new little brand to the ground. And that's just the first hour. Some lies break easily. Others rot from the inside until the stench can't be hidden." The boardroom held a quiet tension, the kind that precedes a storm, not of chaos but consequence. Outside, the city sparkled like it hadn't heard the first crack of the truth being pried open. Inside, the silence sat thick. My parents and Samantha stared at the screen, frozen in disbelief, their carefully curated reality beginning to curdle under the weight of what they saw. I finally spoke. "You always said it wasn't personal. Just priorities. Just practicality. But it was personal to me every time you stole from me under the guise of family need." Elaine opened her mouth, perhaps to deny, perhaps to placate, but I continued before she could. I'm going to walk you through it. Don't interrupt. You'll want to understand what's coming. I tapped a key, and the wall screen changed. April 15th, 2010, 2 days before my 12th birthday. My bracelet was pawned for $320. The funds went directly to Samantha's ballet account. Samantha shifted in her chair. Greg looked down at the table. September 2nd, 2016. My college fund was drained. You told me it had been lost in a downturn. In truth, it was liquidated to fund Sam's first brand launch and cover travel to LA Fashion Week. I pressed another key. A bank log appeared, $42,000 transferred in increments, signed with my name, but not in my hand. I glanced over. Samantha had gone pale. Claire, that wasn't... she began. Don't, I said sharply, not raising my voice, just aiming it. There's more. Another click. Audio now. Elaine's voice filled the room, grainy but unmistakable. Claire can always reapply. Let Sam take her slot this time, she needs it more. Don't make this difficult. Greg's jaw clenched. What is this? Your own words, I replied. From the day you forced me to withdraw my internship application so Samantha could submit hers, using my resume, by the way. That's forgery, Greg. Or did you forget you were the one who delivered the paperwork? Samantha flailed. I didn't know that's what was happening. You said I could apply. You never said you wanted it. I turned to her, calm. You never asked. You just took. That was always the arrangement, wasn't it? She faltered, eyes darting toward Elaine, who said nothing. Her silence for once was the loudest. I kept the messages, I said. Every time you told me I was too intense, too focused, too cold. That I didn't fit the family image. I looked to Ethan, who stood and handed over a file to each of them, sleek folders thick with printouts and witness statements. Signed affidavits, I explained. From your old friends, Samantha. The ones you paid to keep me out of birthday parties, study groups, even the tech club. Her lips parted, a breath caught, mid-lie. That's not it is. Ethan interrupted, crisp and professional. We traced the transfers. Their testimonies are notarized. For a moment, no one moved. Then the door opened. Richard Palmer stepped inside, unapologetically late, holding a coffee, like this was just another Tuesday. Sorry I'm late, he said, glancing around the table. Couldn't miss my new boss giving a masterclass in revenge. Elaine turned sharply. What is he doing here? Oh, I said, not bothering to hide the satisfaction. I thought you'd want to meet the man whose company I now own. Greg's face paled. You're... that Claire Morgan? I leaned back, slightly, fingers interlocked, voice precise. The one you called just a coder. Yes, that one. Silence followed, the kind that folds over itself, heavy and irreversible. The weight of recognition, not of my success, but of everything they had underestimated, settled across the table like ash after a fire. They weren't looking at the same Claire anymore, and I had no intention of reminding them. They tried to bury me in silence. I built an empire from it. None of them spoke at first. The boardroom, which once held tension, now crackled with something darker reckoning. Ethan stood behind me, calm as always, a silent specter of the truth they could no longer twist. I know what you're thinking, I said, my voice steady, almost gentle. You're wondering how far I'm willing to go. Elaine clutched her purse tighter, eyes darting between me and the monitor still frozen on Samantha's forged signature. I'll save you the suspense, I continued. There are two options. Ethan moved forward, placing a folder in front of each of them with surgical precision. These are non-disclosure agreements. You sign, you disappear. Quietly. No press, no lawsuits. In return, I don't pursue criminal charges or civil damages. Elaine blinked rapidly. You're threatening us. I'm offering you an exit, I said. A clean one. Which is more than you ever gave me. Samantha scoffed. You think this erases everything I have, a following, a platform. My brand is stronger than your petty revenge. I leaned forward slightly, fingers folded. Are you sure? Another tap on the laptop? A muted video rolled across the screen, Samantha's most recent live stream. Comments crawled up the side, dozens per second. Why are you lying about your sister? This doesn't look good. Sam. Claire's the CEO. What? Unfollowed. Gross behavior. Ethan handed me his phone. Just came through. I read the screen aloud. Glow Up Cosmetics has ended its partnership with Samantha Morgan, citing internal concerns over brand alignment and authenticity. Samantha's breath caught. No, no, they can't. They did. I walked slowly to the windows overlooking the city. The lights looked different now, not like dreams waiting to be chased, but like signals I had already outpaced. Samantha, I said without turning, every deal you made was built on a false premise. You used my name, my records, my resources. That's fraud. I am the brand, she screamed, fists, clenched voice cracking with rage. I turned, finally facing her. Then, I guess the brand's bankrupt. She flinched like I had struck her. Not with force, but with something worse, truth she could no longer outrun. Greg stood suddenly. Wait. Fraud. He looked toward Ethan. What do you mean? Ethan opened a folder, sliding a single sheet across the table. You co-signed a loan that was rerouted through a shell account. That money was Claire's college fund. Greg's face went slack. Elaine dropped into her chair, her poise unraveling in real time. We just thought, she whispered. We just thought Samantha had the better chance at everything. And you bet everything on her, I said. Including me. Samantha's phone buzzed again and again, but she didn't check it. She knew. Ethan cleared his throat. You have 24 hours. After that, we go public. He placed the remaining NDA packets gently on the table. No one moved. No one argued. No one dared. The empire they built from my silence was crumbling in front of them, and for the first time in their lives, they couldn't stop it. Every single view means a meal for someone in need. Just by watching this video, you're giving warmth, hope, and a full plate to those less fortunate. So watch now, share now, subscribe to the channel, and let's spread love together. Justice is not about balance, it's about truth. And truth costs. The suite was silent, the kind of silence that didn't offer peace, only space. Wide, echoing, final. I sat by the window high above the city that once ignored me as much as my family had. The skyline shimmered under the weight of headlines that carried my name not as an afterthought, but as the story itself. A soft hum came from the projector. The image flickered slightly before resolving into grainy footage: a small cake, a dozen mismatched candles, a 10-year-old version of me clapping alone while Samantha opened a gift I'd wrapped with my own allowance. Greg's voice in the background, half listening. Don't eat too much, Claire. That's Samantha's cake. I paused it. Ethan didn't say anything as he entered. He never did until I was ready to hear it. I finally asked, did we win? He shrugged slightly, leaning against the wall. Depends on what you count as winning. I nodded, once gaze still fixed on the frozen frame. I regret not walking away sooner. Not the fight. Just the years I kept hoping they'd change. He didn't respond right away. He knew better than to offer comfort that felt rehearsed. Instead, he handed me the latest round of press clippings. Billion-dollar betrayal. The Claire Morgan files. Explained silence as strategy, how one CEO turned family fraud into corporate warfare, not just a coder, inside the rise of Blackwood's shadow architect. I dropped them onto the coffee table unread. My phone buzzed once. A message. From her. Samantha. I didn't know you could hurt people like this. I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew I wouldn't say anything at all. I let the words sit there, exposed, accusatory, like she had found some twisted poetry in the ruin she helped build. I deleted the message. No response was a response. Outside the window, a billboard glowed with my company's latest campaign, ironically, one she had once tried to claim as her idea. Across the suite, Ethan set a folder on the table. Legal documents, neat, lethal final. Once you sign, he said, it's all in motion. I didn't hesitate. The pen felt heavier than it should have, like it knew what it was ending, or maybe what it was freeing. I signed. The door opened softly behind us. Marcus stepped in, face unreadable. They've signed. All of them. I didn't ask what versions of the NDA they chose. It didn't matter anymore. I looked up, met his gaze, and simply said, "Good. Now close the file." And the past. He nodded once and left. I stood there for a while longer. No tears, no relief. Just the quiet acknowledgement of something finished. Something I had both destroyed and survived. The cost was everything I once believed a family should be. But the truth, it was finally mine. Silence used to protect them. Now it defines me. The stage lights didn't bother me the way they once did. Back then, I'd shy away from attention like it was something dangerous. Now, I wore it like armor. The tech conference was the biggest of the year, streamed in real time to more countries than I cared to count. Every seat in the auditorium was filled, cameras blinking like watchful eyes. But none of that mattered. Not the crowd. Not the noise. Just the moment. Ethan stood just off stage, arms crossed, unreadable. But I could feel the quiet pride beneath his calm. We had survived something no company handbook had ever prepared us for. And more than that, we had outbuilt it. I stepped to the podium. The applause was loud, polite at first. Then it built. Real, sustained. For me. I was once told, I began, my voice clear, steady, unflinching, that I was just a girl with a laptop. No connections, no pedigree, no chance. The laughter came quickly. Warm. Knowing. They weren't wrong about the laptop, I said, smiling. They just underestimated what it could become in the hands of someone who had nothing left to lose. More applause. But I didn't let it swell too long. This wasn't about basking. It was about closing. This isn't a story about revenge, I continued. It's a story about resilience. About how underestimation is a powerful currency when it's spent wisely. Somewhere near the front, I spotted a young woman, early 20s, clutching a notepad like it held her whole future. She looked at me the way I used to look at CEOs when I still believed the world had a place for me in it. That girl, whoever she was, she'd never have to wonder if silence made her invisible. Not anymore. I stand here not because I was loud, I said, voice lowering, grounding the room, but because I was silent long enough to hear what others missed. And sometimes silence isn't golden. It's platinum. And sometimes it speaks louder than all your doubters combined. The room rose in applause. No one needed to be told to stand. They just did. I stepped away from the mic, heart steady, heels clicking softly across the stage floor as I walked toward the wings. Ethan met me there, his nod small but solid. "You're trending," he said. "I should hope so," I replied dryly, slipping my earpiece out. I didn't wear heels for nothing. He smirked, then handed me a small white envelope. "Just came in." Someone slipped it to our coordinator. I raised a brow, then opened it. Inside, a single card. No name. Just a sentence printed cleanly on matte black. "We know what you did to Palmer Tech. Want to do it again?" I stared at the card, letting the meaning settle the invitation, the respect disguised as challenge, the future knocking like thunder on the horizon. Behind me, the crowd was still talking, buzzing, alive. But all I could hear was the soft click of opportunity, sharp, unmistakable. I turned to Ethan. He didn't have to ask. I smiled. "Let's talk."